Today, we are conducting a documentary reconstruction of the 24 hours leading up to the operation in Mogadishu that would later be known as the longest night. This investigation follows the real-time progression of every preparation, movement, and decision across the task force, tracing the countdown exactly as it unfolded on the ground and in the air. We will observe the approach toward an event that could not be reversed, focusing on the factual density of that single operational day. Please make yourself comfortable and proceed with the viewing. Joint Special Operations Task Force conducts routine pre-mission preparations inside secure perimeter at the Mogadishu Airport compound. Ranger battalions finalize weapon cleaning procedures and verify ammunition loadouts under supervision of platoon sergeants. Delta Force operators review photographic intelligence showing residences linked to key lieutenants of Mohammed Farah Aidid. Mission Directive allocates objective focus on the Olympic Hotel sector in the Bakara Market area. Helicopter crews of the 160th Special Operations Aviation Regiment begin pre-flight checks on Black Hawk and Little Bird aircraft positioned on forward pads. Maintenance personnel inspect rotor assemblies, hydraulic systems, and fuel lines using standard technical checklists. Communications officers test encrypted radios and ensure compatibility across ground and air elements. Weather reports indicate dry conditions with stable visibility across the urban grid. Intelligence summaries from overnight surveillance missions note increased militia foot movement around Halwadig Road, but no concentrated formations. Convoy elements from the 10th Mountain Division rehearse route clearance procedures using light armored vehicles staged on the southern access road. Medical teams inventory supplies in forward aid stations, confirming availability of intravenous fluids, bandages, and surgical equipment. No information suggests deviation from the expected 30-minute capture operation planned for the day. Across Mogadishu, civilian commerce resumes along primary market corridors. Transport carts move agricultural goods toward Bakara stalls. Local militias conduct casual checkpoints at intersections, but demonstrate no large-scale preparation. Somali National Alliance radio channels broadcast routine political messaging without referencing American troop activity. Urban density remains high in operating sectors. Task Force command staff meets in briefing tent to review target identification photographs, helicopter insertion timing, and extraction convoy sequencing. All units maintain standard readiness posture. No anomalies detected in overnight observation reports. Countdown to operation continues without adjustments. Target packets are revalidated using updated aerial imagery provided by reconnaissance flights conducted during pre-dawn hours. Delta team leaders examine structural layouts of the designated capture site, confirming entry points, interior stair access, and adjacent alley geometry. Ranger Company Command finalizes chalk assignments for fast rope insertion, distributing personnel across designated Black Hawk lifts. Little Bird crews verify door-mounted weapon mounts and inspect ammunition belts for continuous feed reliability. Communications technicians run synchronized tests on encrypted frequencies allocated for air-ground coordination, ensuring minimal signal interference across dense urban sectors. Convoy commanders conduct secondary map reviews of designated extraction routes spanning National Street and Medina Road corridors, marking potential roadblock points observed in previous operations. Intelligence officers compile a situational report indicating standard militia patterns in Bakara Market zone with intermittent weapon spotting but no massing of forces. Supply teams distribute water, rations, and additional ammunition to ready lines for both ground and air units. Medical personnel conduct rapid assessments of casualty evacuation equipment, confirming stretcher availability, and establishing internal triage stations within the airport perimeter. Across Mogadishu, mid-morning traffic increases around major trading arteries. Civilian vendors transport goods toward Hawadig and Jilib junctions. Armed groups maintain localized control over neighborhood boundaries without significant coordination. No broadcasts from Somali National Alliance channels indicate awareness of American operational intent. Airport perimeter security patrols record stable conditions along outer fencing. Command staff continues standard mission progression tempo. No change in timing or extraction sequencing is recommended. The operational window remains aligned with late afternoon deployment. Final coordination brief convenes between Aviation Command, Delta Assault Element, and Ranger security teams. Updated intelligence from liaison channels indicates the 2 designated Aidid lieutenants are expected to attend a meeting inside the target building within the projected window. Mapping officers overlay helicopter ingress routes on current aerial reconnaissance frames, confirming obstacle clearance along low-altitude corridors over Bakara Market. Black Hawk crews conduct fuel recalculations for sustained hover operations above dense urban zones. Little Bird pilots verify helmet-mounted sighting systems and review rooftop elevation data across approach grid squares. Ranger platoon leaders distribute final ammunition allocations and reconfirm order of descent for fast rope insertion. Delta operators inspect breaching charges, flex cuffs, and communications headsets for reliability. Vehicle crews of the extraction convoy conduct engine warm-up procedures on armored transport trucks staged near the southern access gate. Route reconnaissance teams provide updated notes on newly erected street-side barricades along segments of National Street and Blue Line Road, marking them as potential obstructions. Civil Affairs monitoring reports steady civilian activity within Bakara sector, with typical congestion patterns and no detected mobilization of large militia groups. Somali National Alliance radio frequencies relay routine announcements without reference to foreign troop movements. Weather tracking stations confirm continued visibility and stable wind conditions suitable for coordinated insertion. No modification to operational timing is issued. All units maintain scheduled readiness for late-day deployment. Aviation elements initiate full pre-deployment configuration. Black Hawk aircraft undergo rotor run-ups at designated pads, with crew chiefs monitoring vibration patterns and engine temperature stability. Little Bird teams load additional ammunition boxes onto side-mounted racks and conduct last-minute checks on fuel reserves to ensure adequate loiter time over the target grid. Delta Force operators assemble inside a secured staging area, reviewing the entry sequence for the target structure, confirming breaching order, stairwell control, and room-to-room sweep progression. Ranger platoons rehearse fast rope descent procedures along marked zones on the tarmac, maintaining spacing intervals and confirming landing posture for dense urban environments. Ground convoy units complete installation of communication links between lead and trail vehicles, verifying encryption keys and antenna functionality. Route reconnaissance updates identify increased civilian congestion along key intersections in the Bakara Market perimeter, though no organized militia formations are reported. Tactical Operations Center receives monitoring summaries from liaison assets indicating dispersed militia presence across Hawadig and Sodanka districts, with standard checkpoint operations but no indication of rapid mobilization capability. Weather elements confirm stable air density and crosswind conditions favorable for precision flight and hover operations. Intelligence staff compiles last-hour reports showing the targeted meeting at the objective building remains scheduled within the expected operational window. Medical teams prepare aid stations with trauma supplies and designate evacuation pathways toward the runway's northern edge. Command oversight determines no adjustments are required for timing, sequencing, or extraction routes. Operational posture continues on schedule for late-day execution. Command staff issues the final confirmation that the objective meeting involving the 2 Aidid lieutenants remains set for the late-day window, matching the planned insertion timeline. Delta team leaders conduct one more structural review using laminated aerial photographs, marking anticipated resistance points inside the target building and confirming planned containment positions along adjacent alleys. Ranger platoons receive last distribution gear checks: water, ammunition, medical kits, and radio batteries. Squad leaders verify chalk assignments with air crews, ensuring fast rope teams are aligned with their designated Black Hawks. Aviation maintenance personnel complete hydraulic pressure checks across all aircraft assigned to the lift package. Black Hawk co-pilots run through communication synchronization with Little Bird flight leaders, confirming clear transmission across primary and secondary channels. Convoy commanders finish coordinating staging order along the southern access gate, assigning lead, mid-column, and rear security roles, and verifying route checkpoints along National Street and the planned turn sequence toward the extraction zone. Intelligence updates note routine militia checkpoint activity inside the Bakara Market perimeter, but no reconnaissance indicators of heightened alert or unusual congregation of armed groups. Civilian patterns remain consistent with late-afternoon commercial traffic, and aerial surveillance detects no concentrations of vehicles or foot units that could impede convoy movement. Weather monitoring stations report stable thermal conditions with predictable evening downdrafts within acceptable limits for rotary wing operations. Medical elements finalize allocation of aid station roles and reconfirm internal evacuation paths from landing zones to treatment points. At the Joint Operations Center, communications staff runs a full sweep of encryption keys for all participating elements, replacing any unstable units. Command oversight approves the current operational timeline with no alterations. All teams hold readiness posture for imminent transition into pre-launch phase. Operational elements transition into final readiness posture as daylight begins to decline. Aviation crews secure night-adapted visors and recalibrate cockpit lighting for low visibility conditions expected during the outbound leg. Black Hawk crew chiefs perform last checks on cargo hooks, fast rope deployment housings, and internal restraint systems. Little Bird teams validate target coordinate entries on mission knee boards and verify weapon sight alignment using short-range calibration procedures. Delta operators conduct controlled loading of breaching kits, suppressors, flex cuffs, and optical equipment into designated rucks, marking each package for rapid redistribution upon landing. Ranger platoons assemble in their chalk formations along the tarmac, performing silent inspections of harness fittings, magazine retention straps, and first aid kits. Convoy personnel complete fuel top-off procedures for transport trucks and Humvees positioned near the southern gate staging line. Updated reconnaissance imagery from overhead surveillance shows unchanged traffic density across Bakara Market's approach roads, with no detected aggregation of militia technicals or heavy weapons. Intelligence officers brief command staff on minor shifts in local movement patterns. Scattered armed individuals observed near Juba Road and Halwadig junctions, consistent with routine evening guard rotations rather than mobilization. Communications teams run full bandwidth tests on primary, backup, and emergency radio nets, ensuring interoperability between air assets, ground units, and Joint Operations Center liaison nodes. Weather reports confirm stable atmospheric layers with expected visibility along the coastal corridor, no precipitation forecast, and predictable night cooling across the urban grid. Medical teams pre-position casualty equipment near the designated landing zone and confirm stretcher teams for both inbound and outbound scenarios. Command oversight notes all mission components aligned with established timeline. No adjustments authorized. Operational countdown continues toward the launch phase without deviation. Air crews initiate engine preheat procedures on Black Hawks and Little Birds, maintaining standby rotation to reduce launch lag once the execution order is issued. Technicians conduct thermal scans on transmission housings and rotor heads to confirm uniform temperature distribution before full power engagement. Delta assault elements receive the final pre-mission intelligence packet summarizing structure occupancy estimates, alleyway access lanes, and anticipated building entry resistance. Ranger platoons run silent walkthroughs along marked ground lanes, simulating fast rope descent dispersal, maintaining formation integrity and verifying immediate perimeter establishment roles upon landing. Convoy commanders finalize spacing intervals for column movement, testing short-range radios for driver-to-commander coordination. Surveillance feeds from liaison assets show standard nighttime settlement across Bakara Market's outer sectors. Street activity declines to predictable levels, with small clusters of armed individuals rotating through informal checkpoints, but without measurable buildup. No concentration of militia technical vehicles is detected along major ingress routes. Communications officers complete encryption cycling on mission-specific frequencies, locking in primary and secondary channels for uninterrupted air-to-ground synchronization. Weather teams confirm stable nighttime air density suitable for multi-aircraft hover operations. Medical personnel prepare triage zones adjacent to the designated landing areas, organizing supply crates, splints, fluids, and lighting gear for low-visibility treatment. Joint Operations Center staff runs a final systems continuity test on mapping displays, satellite imagery overlays, and air route trackers to ensure real-time operational oversight. No directive changes issued. Mission sequencing remains aligned with planned nighttime deployment window, and all units sustain elevated readiness awaiting the formal launch command. Final synchronization procedures begin across all participating elements. Black Hawk and Little Bird crews move into full readiness, conducting controlled rotor spin-ups at idle power to validate engine response under night conditions. Cockpit teams verify navigation reference points using infrared markers positioned along runway boundaries. Delta operators assemble at the designated loading zone, distributing breaching equipment, communications headsets, and marking tools according to the entry stack order confirmed earlier in the day. Ranger platoons take position along the tarmac in assigned chalk groups, maintaining blackout discipline while platoon sergeants inspect harness fittings, rope gloves, and weapon sling tension. Ground convoy units reposition into launch order at the southern gate, headlights off. Engines running at low idle to maintain temperature stability before departure. Intelligence staff delivers a final situation review. Scattered armed clusters observed near Jilib and Halwadig intersections follow routine nocturnal patterns, lacking indicators of coordinated mobilization. Drone reconnaissance notes isolated civilian movement through Bakara's peripheral lanes, typical for late-night commerce and water transport. No checkpoints display reinforcement or heavy weapon emplacement. Communications officers run the last uninterrupted transmission test between the Joint Operations Center, Aviation Command, Delta Command Node, and Convoy Lead Vehicle, confirming stable encryption keys and minimal interference on both primary and fallback frequencies. Weather sections report predictable cooling across the urban grid with stable wind bands and clear visibility layers extending over the city center, suitable for low-altitude approach and hover operations. Medical elements stage evacuation litters, IV kits, and field dressings at the forward aid station near the runway's northern perimeter. Command oversight records all mission components present, aligned, and prepared for activation. No delays, no adjustments, and no warnings emerge from intelligence. Countdown proceeds toward the designated execution window. The execution order is expected within the forthcoming window, prompting all units to transition from standby to immediate action posture. Aviation crews complete full-power rotor tests on Black Hawks and Little Birds, monitoring torque readings, fuel flow stability, and rotor RPM under operational load. Cockpit navigation systems are cross-checked against infrared runway markers and preloaded urban grid coordinates. Delta operators load onto their assigned aircraft, securing rucks, breaching kits, and demolition charges into designated floor anchor points. Team leaders confirm internal stack formation, radio check-ins, and silent hand signals for entry sequencing once on the ground. Ranger platoons assemble at the final loading lanes, guiding chalk groups toward the aircraft under blackout conditions. Platoon sergeants perform rapid harness and weapon checks before releasing personnel to board. Convoy units at the southern gate maintain engine idle at heat-stable levels, with drivers verifying night vision device clarity and convoy spacing through low-intensity infrared strobes. Updated reconnaissance from overhead assets reports no change in Bakara Market's nighttime activity patterns, scattered militia presence, isolated foot patrols, and no aggregation of technical vehicles or heavy weapons along projected approach corridors. Communications personnel implement final frequency stabilization procedures, ensuring clean transmission across command, aviation, ground, and extraction elements. Weather stations confirm sustained visibility with negligible wind drift along urban approach routes. Medical teams stand at full readiness at the forward aid station, preparing for potential early casualties. The Joint Operations Center monitors live feed overlays of urban movement, helicopter telemetry, and convoy placement, confirming full synchronization across the entire task force. No deviation alerts are detected. Command confirmation signals that all mission elements remain locked to the original timetable, with insertion now approaching operational threshold. Command transmits the formal launch authorization to aviation, ground, and assault elements. Black Hawk and Little Bird crews advance engines to operational power, confirming stable rotor RPM, torque output, and avionics responsiveness. Pilots initiate formation indexing using infrared reference points along the runway, aligning aircraft into their designated lift order. Delta operators secure themselves into internal seating positions, fastening restraint belts and finalizing radio gain settings for intra-team communication. Breaching equipment, flex cuffs, and explosive charges are anchored to floor mounts to prevent movement during low-altitude transit. Ranger chalk groups move under blackout discipline toward their assigned aircraft, guided by infrared chem lights carried by crew chiefs. Final weapon safeties are checked, magazines reseated, and rope gloves adjusted for fast rope insertion. Convoy elements at the southern gate shift into forward-ready posture, tightening spacing intervals and verifying engine temperature stabilization for immediate road departure. Updated surveillance imagery from aerial assets reports no changes in militia posture within Bakara Market or its surrounding districts. No large vehicle formations, no reinforced checkpoints, and no extended militia gatherings are detected along the projected extraction corridor. Radio monitoring of Somali National Alliance frequencies yields no indications of anticipated engagement or abnormal mobilization. Communications officers execute the final encryption lock cycle, securing all operational channels. Weather teams confirm stable conditions with clear atmospheric layers and light coastal airflow, suitable for low-altitude ingress across the urban grid. Medical staff at the forward aid station completes last checks of emergency equipment, laying out triage markers and preparing to receive casualties without delay. Joint Operations Center screens display synchronized telemetry from all aircraft, convoy positions, and ground team status indicators. No irregularities appear across the operational network. Command staff records full alignment across air, ground, and assault elements. The force holds at peak readiness for imminent liftoff. Countdown enters final phase. The coordinated launch sequence initiates without delay. Black Hawk aircraft advance to full power, nose wheels lifting as pilots transition from ground roll to hover check. Little birds rise in staggered formation, maintaining tight lateral spacing and verifying weapons free of mechanical obstruction. Air crews confirm alignment on the pre-assigned flight corridor leading toward the Bakara Market objective. Delta operators maintain secured seating positions, helmets locked, radios active, with internal comms channels carrying short-range status confirmations. Ranger elements maintain full equipment discipline inside their assigned aircraft, hands on harness straps, weapons oriented downward, ready for fast rope descent upon signal. Convoy units depart the southern gate, establishing column integrity along the initial access road. Drivers navigating under night vision optics with infrared strobes marking each vehicle's rear position for spacing control. Overhead, reconnaissance confirms stable patterns across Bakara Market's streets. Low-density foot traffic, scattered armed individuals in expected positions, and no concentration of militia technical vehicles along National Street or Medina Road. Airborne elements proceed toward urban entry altitude, adjusting formation to account for rooftop elevation and expected radio propagation zones. Communications across command, aviation, and ground units remain uninterrupted following the final encryption lock. Weather conditions hold steady with minimal crosswind drift and clear visibility layers extending over the central districts. Medical personnel at the forward aid station stand in immediate response configuration, ready for early inbound casualties. Joint Operations Center monitors synchronized telemetry from all airframes, convoy vehicles, and assault team indicators, confirming continuous movement toward the designated insertion point. No interference detected on mission frequencies. Aircraft maintain planned altitude and speed, while ground forces advance along the extraction corridor. The operation enters the actionable phase. The countdown concludes as insertion begins over the objective area.